everyone, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to the train room. Artisan Pirate here, and in today's video we're going to be giving an updated train room tour and running the trains a little bit. Now since we was in here the last time, a lot has changed. You guys remember in the last train room video I said I wanted to start modifying it to be a train room slash nostalgia room, displaying stuff from my childhood. I took care of all my stuff when I was a child growing up. You know, that's just how I was raised, to take care of everything. And thankfully, a lot of that stuff survived into adulthood for me, and it's just packed away in storage totes. I've been going through stuff and finding stuff. I do have the retro video game stuff, some of it displayed in here now. We're going to see that in the video. And I've added more to the train table that the camera is currently sitting on. And I've added an O-scale loop. And I know that's going to come across as odd because I've been going HO scale for so long, you know. But I got to thinking about my childhood, and you know, the Lionel train, the 027 gauge, was the very first model train I had, and I really wanted to run it more instead of just at Christmas. So I've added an elevated O-scale loop here, and it's still in the prototype stage. So I don't even know if I'm going to keep this or if I'm going to modify it. But currently, right now, I can also run 3 trains on the train table. There's 2 HO scale loops on the ground level, and now we have an elevated O scale level. Keep in mind it was made out of all upcycled material because I'm just still prototyping the idea. I don't know if I'm going to stick with it, but you're going to see it in this video, and I would like your guys' opinions of it. So before we get to the train table and get to running the trains, let me show you some of the new stuff in the train room itself. So I'm going to take the camera off the tripod and show you guys around. Now, the wall we were currently standing in front of filming that video's entrance is the back wall, and I have some scroll saw portraits I have cut out. 2 of these here are Steve Good's scroll saw designs, and then this one here came from the Scroll Saw Village website, but I hand cut all of that and then handmade all 3 of the frames custom. This was just a nice CNC sign I made years ago when the train room came into my idea. No association to what this word means, you know, just Neverland, where you never grow up. But on this mantle here above what used to be a fireplace is some train stuff, some old railroad lanterns. There is a Thomas Kincaid Christmas train there, and I've got to get it up and running. And my O-scale Thomas the Tank Engine with his coaches, Annie and Clarabelle. And then here we have some other stuff. This train mantle clock here was a scroll saw project video on the channel, as well as cutting out my name here in real time. A lot of people wanted me to cut out in real time, so I've done that. And then we have my main HO scale stuff, and by all means, this is not all of it. This is just what I have on the shelves here. It's what I like to run a lot of. And below it here is a license plate I got at the train show up at the Mebane train display. And then here we have the HO scale test track we made, which was also a featured video. But then coming around, we have a nice Jolly Roger pirate flag made by my buddy up in New York, Robert. Thank you for that. Above this cabinet, we have a wood turn plate by my very good buddy, Jerry Meismer. He gave it to me. He commonly wood turns cowboy hats out of one solid chunk of material, but he gave me that, and it's obviously displayed in here. Here is a 3D printed pirate's chest I made. Took a long time to 3D print this, I think about 2 weeks. And then some other 3D printed stuff and a appropriate 3D printed ship. And then here we have the cabinet that has all the train stuff in it. And the one shelf has a lot of my childhood Thomas the Tank Engine stuff. Of course, that was the main reason I got into trains, was that show there. And I had a lot of the merchandise from back in the day, and I'm happy to have it displayed now. On this little shadow box section here is all of my Victorinox Swiss Army knives. You guys know I love to connect these iconic multi-tools. They are so recognized the world over. And on top of it is 3 books on Swiss Army knives. And this shelving system was given to me. It does have a piece of plexiglass that goes in the front of it. I just never use it because I'm constantly coming in here getting a knife, showing it to someone. But I do have the piece of plexiglass. And this shelf is located between the door and the window. So a nice little shelving system to fill that area. And over here on this wall, I don't normally show the wall this much. I wanted to show you this portrait here. This was given to me by another good friend of mine, Sterling Davis. He gave this to me last December up at the Clean Spore Woodworking Shop store anniversary in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. He had stack cut and made several of these on his new scroll saw, and he had a video on making the actual piece itself, but he gave me one, and I of course put my beloved grandparents' photos in it. I think that was a nice representation, and thank you, buddy, for the amazing gift. Over here in this corner is the little workbench I made using pocket holes to assemble and put together and do maintenance on the trains, as well as put together all the models. Of course, I like to 3D print a lot of the houses, stores, and theme them to stuff that's in my neighborhood. I've currently, at the time this video is recording, have an HO scale gas station and garage to paint. I've got two limited edition Hot Wheels cars from the Hot Wheels Unleashed Nintendo Switch games, Hot Wheels Unleashed 1 and 2, that I want to have on the layout, and I thought them being part of the garage would be very appropriate. But I have all of the basic acrylic craft paints here. It's just a nice little area to sit and relax and paint at while the trains are running. And above this little workbench is one of the major new additions to the train room, and that is the retro video game shelves. All of this stuff was from my childhood here, and believe it or not, my idea for doing this began with 3D printing a stand for this Nintendo 64 controller. This was 3D printed, and I painted it up to display this Donkey Kong 64 banana cover. I found out, you know, just through posting it on video game sites, how valuable it was and how rare it was, so I wanted to display it. And then after I made one display stand, I continued along with all of the systems. Of course, we have the Super Nintendo, the N64, the GameCube, which was a big part of my childhood. I have more memories playing the 64 and the GameCube than I do any other system. And then we went to the Nintendo Wii with those nice nunchuck controllers. And then, of course, I sank a lot of time into the Pokemon games. Of course, this is my childhood Game Boy Color, and I've got a 3D printed stand for it, as well as a stand for the original 3 Pokemon games over here in America, Pokemon Red and Blue. And then they've done some updates to it and released Pokemon Yellow later on. And that was my favorite Pokemon card from when I was a kid. But the top shelf here is not complete, and I am working on it. It's got some Game Boy Advance SPs, I believe they're called, displayed on it, as well as the Nintendo Wii controllers. I would like to get all of the systems with their corresponding controllers, but I've still got more stuff to clean up and get displayed. But this is one little area that I'm very happy with how it is coming along. Beside these shelves is a Lionel calendar for 2024, as well as a Thomas the Tank Engine clock. And below it is a nice train theme piece that my buddy Sam made. He made this on the laser. This is just basic tile you'd put down in a bathroom or kitchen floor. He laser engraved that and then made the custom frame out of cedar. And he's got a nice quote to me engraved on the back of it. So once again, thank you for that, buddy. But now we will get to the actual train table itself. And here we have the train table with its updates. You can see what the major update is, the O scale loop above the HO scale stuff. Once again, my train table is 7.5 foot long by 4 foot wide. I wanted to go a full 8 foot, but I really needed the room to get around the table while working on it. And keep in mind, this O scale loop here is completely upcycled material that has my original Lionel train on it. Again, it's still in the prototyping stage, but everything is nice and rigid here. You can see nothing wiggle around. It's not attached to the main table, so please keep that in mind. I'm still prototyping in my head, and I really think I'm going to keep this idea going forward. But before I flip the trains on, what I want to ask you guys is, would you guys add a full sheet up here? Like, just go get a sheet of 1/2-inch plywood and then just cut out this oval and make it a solid base up here to where I could build on top of this and maybe add some O-scale buildings. But the thing with that in my mind's eye is I don't want to take away from this interior area and lose all of this space unless I could put some lights under there to where people, when the O-scale train is looking, could look up under here and see a little city or something like that. Again, I don't even know if I'm going to keep this O scale loop here. It was just I wanted to run my childhood Lionel train that the Mebane train display up in Mebane, North Carolina helped me get fixed and running again. I will flip on the power and we will get everything running. As always, I have two controllers, one for each of the loops here, and then the big one for the O scale. I just added a quick little shelf here to house that again because it is in the prototyping stage. But let's get the trains running and we'll see them do a few laps around the train table. Really cool and lots of fun. Hopefully you guys can see me back here sitting in my little chair where I like to relax in and have the trains running. I can play my Nintendo Switch here while the trains are running. I can thumb through a magazine or check my social media feeds. But really cool. what I'm going to do now is put the camera back up on the train table and we'll close the video. And that, my friends, is the updated train room video. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. Thank you so much for continuing to ask about it in my social media posts as well as commenting on previous videos. I'm really happy and still happy to come into this room and relax, especially now that we're in the heat of the summer, you know, when it's really too hot to be outside, you know, or it's dangerous to be outside. I like to come in here, get the trains going, you know, I can paint on a model, work on a train, or like I said, get my Nintendo Switch, sit in this chair while the trains are clickety-clacking down the tracks. I still have a lot of amazing ideas, and I know I'm going to get some comments of people saying, with that elevated track, how narrow it is, the trains could fall off. But the O-scale trains are a lot heavier than the HO-scale trains, and they are a lot more stable, if that makes any sense. Plus, I'm not going to run the train wide open. I am going to run it as a slower speed as opposed to if I had it down on the ground, you know, if that makes any sense. But I would like to know your guys' opinions if you guys would like to see the elevated loop stay. I have ideas whether it stays or goes, and again, as I've said, it's not attached to the table, and I could quickly, you know, just pop it apart, you know, and put it away and just bring it in here during the Christmas time. But if I added a full sheet over there and closed in that oval, I could go above it and kind of have a tiered appearance with the O scale at the top and the HO scale at the bottom. And I know some people are going to say, why not, if you're going to go this route, put the O scale on the bottom and bring the HO scale to the top. I've put too much work into the HO scale stuff on the ground level. And again, this idea for the O scale loop was kind of just the idea that fell into my head, as well as putting all the video game stuff in here. That stuff was just on a shelf in my actual room, and no one, you know, goes in someone's personal room, you know, a lot. So I wanted it in the train room where it could actually be displayed and everybody could see it and enjoy it, you know, and just share the nostalgic memories with it. I've already had a buddy come over. He really liked the O-scale loop, and he even liked the video game stuff, and he was saying, hey, I had that as a kid, I had that as a kid, man, you have this, man, you have that, you know. So that's what I want it to be about. So I've got to go through a lot more totes and boxes in the family attic and find more stuff and pull it down. Of course, I'll be probably rearranging some stuff as I add or take away more shelves to properly display everything. But it's a constant evolution, just like out in the workshop, of the workflow and everything and how you want things to go. Again, I want to know and I value your guys' opinions on what you would like to see going forward, if the O-scale loop stays or if the O-scale loop goes. But I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If you're just happening to jump onto the channel, please consider subscribing to it, and also follow me across all my social media feeds under the Artisan Pirate name. As always, links to contact me as well as all my social medias will always be linked down in the description box below these videos. That's about all for this one, and remember guys, if I can make it or do it, so can you. I'm the Artisan Pirate. Take care, and I'll see you guys real soon.